Hi again, it's Joe from the Gen 5 Rudder channel. Hey, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I hope you'll push like and subscribe to our channel if you're enjoying what we're doing. Today, I'm going to show you how to make English muffins. Let's go.
To begin this recipe, put 2 cups of all-purpose or bread flour into your mixing bowl. I goofed up the recipe here and used 1.5 cups instead of 2 cups and then had to add more flour later. Don't make that mistake. Now we're going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar to our flour. Then 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Now whisk together your dry ingredients thoroughly, watching to break up any lumps that you see. Now use your measuring cup or your fist or a glass to make a well in your dry ingredients. Crack an egg into the well. Break the yolk with your whisk or a fork and beat the egg gently. Be careful not to incorporate the dry ingredients at this point. Stir up your Overland starter and measure out 1 cup and add it to your well. Whisk together the egg and the starter and then begin to slowly incorporate the dry ingredients until you get a sticky mess. Remember when I didn't put enough flour in the beginning? Now I'm paying the price for that. So I'm going to take some time here and add another 1/2 cup of flour, a few tablespoons at a time. Now I know because you're paying attention, you won't make the same mistake. Once all your dry and wet ingredients are incorporated, turn out the dough onto a work surface. It's time to start kneading. Now today my work surface is a folding aluminum table and a thin plastic cutting mat. Here's a trick for you if you use this system. Put a wet paper towel under the thin plastic cutting mat and it'll hold it in place for you. Here I'm just gathering together all the loose crumbles and pieces that have fallen on the mat. Now I'm putting down flour so that I can begin kneading my dough. See all the goopy stuff stuck to my fingers? That's from having to put the flour back in that I should have put in the first place. After flouring both sides of the dough, I use it then to spread the flour around on my work surface before I begin kneading. Kneading is a process that stretches the dough out and cross-links the proteins in the grain. The net result is that it makes a dough that is more elastic and will rise much, much better. There is no end of the debate and opinions on what's the best way to knead, so I'm not going to tell you that this is the best way. This is just the way that I do it. I press the dough out, stretching it with my palm or the heel of my palm. Fold it back over a couple of times and then turn it 90 degrees. This way I get to all of the dough sooner or later and all of it gets kneaded. From time to time when you're kneading, you may need to add just a little bit more flour to your work surface to keep the dough from sticking, but keep this to a minimum. As you near the end of the kneading process, the dough will be tearing more than smearing when you push with the heel of your palm. This is an indication that the proteins have linked and that it's time to let the dough rest. Form your dough into a ball and then place it in your bowl to set aside to rise for about 4 hours. Once the dough has risen to about double its original size, then we'll prepare the dough for its second rising. I'm going to caution you here, if you let the dough rise too much, you'll end up with dense, chewy muffins. So it would be better to proceed too soon than to let it sit too long. When I got back to my dough the next morning, as you can see, it's more than doubled, maybe 1.5 times its original size, and it's over-risen. This is unfortunately going to result in a denser English muffin than I had planned. For your second rise, prepare a flat surface with cornmeal. I'm using my griddle. Officially, you're supposed to use semolina, but I don't have any semolina and I don't carry it around in my truck, but I usually have some cornmeal around, so that's what I'm using today. The purpose of the cornmeal is exactly the same as when you make pizza. It's to keep the dough from sticking to the hot surface when you cook it. Now flour your work surface and turn the dough out onto it. Knead your dough until it's uniform and elastic, and then form it into a rectangle to be rolled out. My rolling pin is just a piece of 1.5-inch PVC pipe that's cut to fit inside my kitchen drawer and has been sanded a little bit to keep it from slipping on the dough. Roll out your dough until it's about 1/4 inch thick. Keep in mind that it's going to pretty much double in thickness during the second rise. I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can make your muffins. The first is cutting them. You can use a pastry cutter like I'm using here, or a tuna fish can, 1-quart mason jar with a wide mouth, anything you have that's about the size of a muffin. Some folks say that cutting out the muffins allows them to rise a little higher, but I'm not really sure it matters. Be sure to keep your work surface well floured. Otherwise, if the dough starts to stick to it a little bit, it'll be stretched when you cut it, and then when you release it, it'll snap back. The next couple of muffins are going to shrink when they hit the cornmeal because I cut them while they were under tension. Look how much smaller it is than the other 2 that were made with the same cutter. An alternative method for forming your muffins is to make a log out of your dough and then cut uniform pieces out of it. You'll take those and then form them into the individual, I'll call them patties, dough that will become your muffins. Cover up your muffins and let them rise until they've doubled in thickness. Spray a little canola oil on your griddle and preheat it on medium-low. You don't want to cook them too fast, but you can take them off and lower the heat and put them back on if you need to. If you don't go hot enough, however, they will not rise anymore and won't be as fluffy as you'd like. You'll notice I'm putting them in the corners here first because the flame is in the middle of the griddle, and I want to take my time figuring out where I want to put them just to make sure that I'm not overdoing it. So I don't know about you, but I just can't seem to resist the temptation to mess around with stuff that's cooking. So I'm turning them and brushing them off and doing all kinds of silly stuff to the point it's a wonder they ever even are able to get cooked at all. I don't like to cut my muffins in half with a knife. I think it detracts from the nooks and crannies. So I use a fork. Just slip the fork into the side of the muffin and twist it slightly, pull it out, and continue on all the way around until the muffin breaks in half. And there you have it. Fresh, piping hot English muffins. Add a little butter and some unsulfured molasses, and you have an incredible treat. Yum.
Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please remember to subscribe to our channel. We need the help. And as always, remember to arrive safe and leave clean. Cheers.